Welcome to Black Health Matters. I'm Darryl Armistead, your host. This episode is a Zoom recording of Howard University group session led by Dr. Clive Callender.
She began to share some beautiful little things, like a beautiful picture of a plant and other things. And as she shared things with everyone else, she began to appreciate the beauty of life's little things that sometimes we take for granted. I think of an article I read where it asked this child, what are the 7 most important gifts to the world? And the child said, tasting, seeing, hearing, and talks about the senses. And sometimes we take so much for granted that we forget the many gifts that we have that are too numerous to count. And sharing those little things made a big difference in her life. And so the whole article was about how, in spite of the griefs and pain that go along with life, that sharing the beautiful little things that happen to us that we sometimes take for granted can help us to take another perspective on whether we have something to be happy about or not. And invariably, there's something there that can bring joy to somebody else. And in bringing joy to somebody else, you can bring joy to yourself. I thought it was an interesting article that talked about how to find joy during times of grief and pain, because this life is full of grief and pain, but it's also full of innumerable blessings and beautiful things that we sometimes take for granted. Any comments about that? I thought that was an interesting article. No comments. Okay.
Dr. Callender, we did talk about that subject before when we were talking about how do we handle grief. We touched on that a little bit.
Yeah. Then there's a good.
I found out through grief, it is an individual thing. We did our section in the app and spent a lot of time on it. But the time that we spent and the analysis of it and the final verdict of it, I felt it wasn't me. And I realized we all go through grief differently. And you begin to, as your article, Dr. Callender, you begin to find things that do make you happy. Obviously, for me losing my husband, it was devastating after 50 years. But during that time, and immediately after, my son came back home, and when he was here, his kids were here. My grandkids went through a lot that year that my husband died. They watched him deteriorate, and then my grandkids' parents, my son and his wife, were going through a lot. Eventually separated, eventually divorced, eventually sold the house. The dog died. My grandkids' grandfather died. 2020, they persevered. They were always there for me. They encouraged me. I saw the strength in them. They were in school. CJ, my grandson, was in that program at PG Community College, where he was able to leave high school with an AA degree. He's now at Towson doing well. My granddaughter will graduate from high school this year. She's an honors student. She's been accepted at 5 different colleges. They persevered and they truly, truly love their granddad. When they hear, we laugh about the things that their granddaddy did and said. And I know they find a lot of joy in remembering those times and doing the celebrations. We celebrated my husband this past week. He had a birthday, I had a birthday, but they continued on with the tradition that we normally would have done with my husband. We had the Chinese dinner with all of the family. They then did a little separate thing for me. My birthday was within 2 or 3 days after what would have been David's. And you do have to persevere, regardless of the hope or regardless of the sadness. You have to find hope. You have to have something positive to look forward to. And my positivity was the family. Have I grieved? I still don't think I have. I'm not sure what grief really is, but you do have to look at the things that make you feel good. And it gives you the strength to go on. And if my 2 young grandkids can go through that year of all that they went through, and to them, I think maybe the worst thing probably was the dog dying, because that happened here too. But it was a lot that they went through, and they're doing so well now, and I'm very, very proud of them. So I can relate to that article.
Yeah, I think we all can. Because the pandemic has caused us all to live life differently.
Differently, yes.
And that's what it's all about, differently, but still finding the innumerable blessings that we have that we often have taken for granted.
Yeah.
And sharing those blessings is what makes it bearable for many. And we talked about the epidemic of loneliness, and that's what is one of the toughest things to deal with, being alone and being lonely, because you could be alone and still not be lonely, but being lonely. Then the last, I got a question for you. Any other comments before I change the topic? There's a question I have for you that what percentage of adults eat the amount of fruits and vegetables that they should?
10%.
Any other thoughts?
I'll say
25%.
40%.
35%.
Any other thoughts?
16%.
And Betty hit it right on the head, 10%. 10 to 12% of adults eat the amount of vegetables and fruits that they should. That's amazing. To me, I thought it was amazing. Of course, you jumped right on it, but
I'm one of them. I don't eat as many as I should. So that's why I thought that.
yeah, and they only suggest 2 to 3 cups of vegetables a day, of fruits or vegetables. Of course, that's all Darryl eats anyway, so we don't consider him. But anyway, it's amazing how few Americans actually eat the small amount of fruits and vegetables that are necessary for life. Anyway, it's
That's funny.
yeah. Then there's another article on keeping your bones in good shape, and since we're all at the age where you have to get a DEXA scan and find out what your bone density is, it talks about the importance of calcium and vitamin D and vegetables again. One thing that Darryl keeps emphasizing us is eating right can keep you alive and keep you slim and keep you healthy. So exercising and eating healthy, that's the name of the game. That's how you do your best to age gracefully.
Yeah, that DEXA scan for bone density, is that an X-ray?
It's a special X-ray, yes.
Yeah.
And when you get over 60, it's a good idea to get one to find out the health of your bones and whether you need to have more calcium and vitamin D and so forth. So,
yeah, is it the same strength as a normal X-ray, or is it stronger like a CAT scan?
it's less than a CAT scan, but a little more than an X-ray.
And is there a time frame for that for seniors, like every 3 years, every 5 years, something?
Yeah, about every 2 or 3 years, I think. Yeah. Once you get it done and you find out whether you're normal or not, then it may be more. You may need to do it more often than that if you're low. But if you're normal, it's probably every 2 or 3 years.
Dr.
Is that
Callender, sometimes they are expecting for your bone density to decrease. So, what are the preventive measures?
Preventive measures are exercising and eating the right amount of vegetables, peanuts. One of the things that they recommend, and also vegetables and fruits. Calcium and vitamin D are the key minerals that they recommend.
It seems like that might slow it down, but as we age, I don't think there's a whole lot you can do.
Well, I disagree with you. There is a lot you can do. But, you have other mitigating circumstances. For example, you may be on medications that doubly require, for example, if you're on prednisone, that causes demineralization on itself. So if you're taking treatment for other maladies, then that makes it harder. But but the normal aging process, if you're not on any medications, the exercise and the right amount of fruits and vegetables and peanuts can slow the deterioration of your bones and keep you from getting osteoporosis.
Are there alternative bone density tests to the DEXA scan?
That's the only one I'm familiar with, Darryl.
I know
And
it.
the reason why I mention that is that with any X-rays, possibility of DNA damage.
Yes, that's true.
I know as you age, when you go to the doctor, I know for women anyway, they usually give us calcium, tell us to take calcium, whether we've had the test or not. So
That's correct.
I've been taking it for a while.
Yeah, that's right.
Dr. Callender, I didn't realize that peanuts were a source of calcium. Any other nuts, Darryl and Doc, that'll help with calcium?
They mention peanuts. They don't say which particular type of nuts. Darryl, you got an answer to that?
Yeah, dark green vegetables, especially leafy vegetables, very high in calcium.
But any other kind of nuts, I was asking.
See, I'm trying to see. I tried to highlight. They talk a lot about bisphosphonates, and here they are. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I just recommend walnuts because they're not an hybrid as opposed to almonds. Almonds and cashews are hybrids, so I just recommend walnuts.
And that's good to know. I always thought nuts were bad for you. I love nuts. I eat all kinds of nuts. But someone told me that they're bad for me. Stop eating them, especially for your digestive tract.
Right.
I wonder who told you that.
Okay.
Those non-medical relatives of mine.
Oh, because it says a diet rich in produce, nuts, and whole grain cereals, olive oil, and fish, of course, are recommended, but they don't identify which type of nuts. Follow Darryl, is an anti-hybrid man. Okay, I guess any other comments about that? There's a lot to share. We've got some articles we can talk about. So, John, you can go ahead and share them.
All righty.
It's interesting that John Buchanan, in addition to being a man of all seasons, and has also had his 99th blood donation. So he's on the road to being in the Hall of Fame for blood donors. So he's a man of all seasons, that John Buchanan is. So
Yeah, thanks a lot, Doc. It's the I'm going on the 21st of March for my 100th, and they have a special at the NIH. They have a special ceremony, so I'll let you guys know.
yeah,
What was the
that's good.
period of time? When did you start getting it? I
Oh,
mean, how many years?
1996.
Say it again, Doc. 96.
1996.
Because I went right after I heard Doc talk about MOTEP and the lack of Black donors and the number of recipients for donation. And I said, well, I don't want to give up an organ, but I can give up some tissue, some blood. That worked for me. And I hate needles too, but I kind of got over it.
Let's tell us about yoga for beginners, John.
Well, I've always heard that yoga is really good for your overall health, but it's also really good for your spirit and your serenity. It's meditative as well as physical. So I really like it. And once I tried it, I was going in person like once a week. Now, since the virtual platform has taken over, I go up to 4 or even 6 times a week, right at home on my computer. So it's very, very convenient. It's rather inexpensive. And again, if anybody is interested in my yogi, I'll send it to you. But it's the type of thing that it's you really feel the effect of sitting, just being non-physical, and especially with COVID. I mean, that's all you could do was sit at home and eat, watch TV. So I mean, you put on weight, your circulation's bad, and your attitude gets really negative, and so yoga is they say it's like meditation in motion. So it's very good, and you can even do some yoga on your own. You don't have to be in a class, but if you learn some basic moves, it'll really help. The stretches mostly, and it also balance poses help you keep you from falling, and it helps you to sleep better also. You see this one move right here, the downward dog. I hate that. It is so hard for me. I think we have a picture of the downward facing dog. This is, even if you just do 10 minutes, it works. My sessions are 1 hour, just about 1 hour. And it really works. So now I'm up to 4 times a week. Today would be a day whenever we're not having this session. I'm doing yoga on Thursday and Friday, but since we've been here, I haven't done Thursday and Friday. So here are the best positions if you want to start. The child's pose. And I'm sorry we don't have a picture of this, but you start on the floor with and you actually that's the frog pose, when you put your knees out wide and then you lean over with your forehead almost on the floor, and it's quite relaxing. It's a relaxing pose. Mountain pose, you're standing up with your arms up in the air, and excuse me. downward dog. I think I have a picture of the down. This is the downward dog. Is one thing wrong with this picture? Anybody can anybody see what's wrong with this picture?
Mm.
It's
No.
kind of subtle, but she's got shoes on. You don't do yoga with shoes on. You do it barefoot. Yeah, that's a downward facing dog. And so those are the basic, simple moves that you can do. The down dog, mountain pose, which is like this, up in the air, standing up straight, and child's pose. And
Yeah.
it's fun. I mean, you really feel like you've accomplished something when it's over, and anybody can do it. In fact, my wife is going to join me Saturday doing yoga, so that really helps. It helps all around, physical, mental, spiritual, all the above. Very good. Any questions?
I have back problems. I have a pinched nerve in my back. So is that, I'm afraid to do too many stretches. Would that help, you think?
Actually, yoga helps with back problems because you actually build up the muscles in your spine. Spine health is one of the key tenets of yoga. And, twists and stretches actually help. I sent this, one of my lessons to John Tatum. I don't know if he could do it, but, one of the things that the instructor always says is you work to your own limits. If you have any pain, then you stop, or you don't do it as far. Sometimes I'm on my back and they're doing leg lifts, with laying on your back, you lift your legs up, or you're sitting on your sitting bones and you lift your legs up. It builds up your stomach area, your abdominal muscles, and boy, that is hard for me. That's really, really hard. But the more you do it, guess what? The more you do it, it gets easier, and you can see the results. It really helps. But you work to your own limits. If you have any pain or anything like that, then you can back off. And it's built into the lesson. You can go, a little bit, a medium, or a lot.
Okay. Okay.
Good question. Any others before we move on, Doctor?
John,
Hey, there's a question in the background I saw.
okay, what about that saying, no pain, no gain?
Forget that.
I,
Forget that.
I would replace that with discomfort. Discomfort is what you're going to feel if you're stretching for the first time. But if it's pain, you need to distinguish between pain and discomfort. Pain tells you that something's wrong.
Stop.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you feel pain, you stop immediately.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
I saw a hand back there. Somebody had their hand up with a question.
Go on to the next one.
Okay. Here we go.
This is as we are aging and as Arthur speaks to us with different ways and with different joints. This is probably one of the most important aspects of what we have to deal with. Is there anyone who has no arthritis at all?
I don't know that I have any.
Yeah, well, if you would know it if you
arthritis.
you would know if you have it.
No, I don't have it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a blessing. It's a blessing. I exercise every morning, but to still have arthritis. And then, of course, smoking. These are the things that make it worse physical inactivity and smoking, of course, unhealthy, period. And then this is something that you see very little, overdoing exercise. You rarely read about that.
Dr. Callender, I was surprised to know that you can get arthritis as early when you're in your 30s.
You get younger than that. I had one of my friends who actually died from arthritis. He was a teenager. But there are different types of arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis and other arthritis, which are involved on the joints. So it's an inflammatory disease that doesn't affect the very young often, but it does. And rheumatoid arthritis can be lethal.
Dr. Callender, what's osteoarthritis?
Bone, actually, it's kind of osteoarthritis refers to inflammation of your bone joints.
I was having
Osteoarthritis.
problems last year this time with my left shoulder and left hand. The hand so bad until I could barely use it. And my sister said, don't worry about it, it's arthritis. No, we all get it. And I realized that, but that doesn't mean accept it. I went to the doctor and he said that he thought it was arthritis, but he did send me for x-rays and they diagnosed osteoarthritis. And he sent me for therapy. It worked. I was very limited. I couldn't, on my left side, reach my hand around my back and reach my arm around my back. And like I said, my hand, it was very limiting in holding and opening. And he sent me for 4 sessions. Of course, when I went to therapy, they did their analysis and said, oh, you need 12. I thought it was a joke. It worked. It really helped a lot. So much so until I'm not having the pain. I can stretch my arm now the way I used to. So it pays to, just follow through with a medical opinion instead of analyzing things. You know it hurts, you know it's arthritis, at least you guess it is. But at least I was able to take it a step further and it did work out.
Right, and there are other causes of shoulder pain, including discs and cervical stenosis. So it's important to find out that you don't have those.
Yeah.
And then heavy lifting is when you do it inappropriately and you don't have the balances for your back can cause more problems than you imagine.
So that means we shouldn't lift our grandchildren.
No, it does mean that you have to lift correctly, and they will tell you how to lift properly and how to bend your knees, how to support your back and your stomach when you lift.
Could you go back up there where it said the palms of your hands to lift? I didn't quite understand it. Could someone explain that to me? Rather than with your hands? Play it safe and use the palms of both hands or use your arms instead of your hands. What? What does that mean?
I don't know.
I have an example of that. So as a diver, I use these very heavy air tanks. They're compressed air tanks. They weigh about 30, 35 pounds each. And if you just lift the tank by the handle and you're carrying these things around, I mean, it puts a lot of strain on your wrists and your fingers. The best way to carry them is like if you're carrying a baby and your back is straight and you're carrying it out in front of you like this. This is one thing that we learned to save your back. And as a dive master, I'm carrying a lot of tanks a lot of times. So I have to be very careful about lifting these heavy things. Also, I go bowling, and just picking up the bowling ball wrong can cause you problems. So you can pick the ball up with 2 hands, that sort of thing. So just be aware of how you pick up things. It says hold items close to your body, which is less stressful.
Mm.
It's interesting because people who work in the hospital, especially nurses, they have to understand the how to properly lift things and how to use things that keep you from lifting when possible, because they have so many machines now that can help lift a patient so that you don't break your back. So I think doing it the proper way is helpful. What is the proper way? I think that's kind of what Carol was asking. Is that interesting? This is going about eating pro-inflammatory foods. And it talks about the usual suspects: red meat, white sugar, French fries,
Ooh,
soda, and pastries. May sound delicious, but it can worsen joint pain. So
I cut out two. I cut out the red meat and white sugar. I'm working on the French fries now.
olive oil, berries, and fish.
Dr. Callender,
Yes,
what makes French fries bad? Is it the frying, or is it just the potato, period?
I think it's both. I think and there are other substances in French fries, not just the potato.
Okay.
And I forgot the name of the product that they've tossed off the market that was in French fries,
Mm.
but so it's not just the potato;
Thank
it's
you.
the process. And
It's also the salt.
yeah,
You said it's also the salt.
Yes, it's also the salt is bad for you.
Yeah, I could understand that. Yeah.
as popular as French fries are.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They're good.
Number 6 is the one that surprised me.
But
But
Dr. Callender, what about the air frying? You know, that's the new thing now.
I don't know anything about that. So anybody have any comments on it?
It's very popular. I know that.
Mhm. You don't use any oil or anything. Pop it in and let it go.
I don't I guess that's an issue we can address because I'm totally ignorant of that. So
Air,
what do you call it? Air fry?
Air frying.
Yeah,
But
well, so
my grandson bought an air fryer. He got into cooking and he bought an air fryer and he used it for about a month. Then the next thing I know, he was cooking the way he was cooking before. Without the air
I mean, there's no taste to air frying. I miss that grease.
That might
Um,
be.
Not really true. You can. I've got an air fryer, and depends on how you season, how you prepare the food. It's not tasteless.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's
well,
so true.
my grandson seasons. He has a whole shelf full of seasonings and stuff, but that air fryer is just sitting on my counter.
We have one. Someone wants to buy it. I'm sorry, it's John's. I can't sell it.
I'll be right over.
well, most of us text, so it's interesting that too much of anything can cause problems, and texting as well as using the computer.
That's
the eyes.
That's John's specialty. He's like the speech to text function. So he just speak it, even when he's using his computer.
Mhm.
He'd rather speak it and then correct the errors than typing or texting. And that some people that use a keyboard a lot, the tunnel carpal injury,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Carpal
Yeah.
tunnel.
Carpal
Very-
tunnel.
Carpal
Yeah,
tunnel syndrome. Yeah, very
I've dealt with that. I've had the operation on my right hand.
Oh.
Mhm.
What was it successful? Did it work?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Well, you know, our children are raised up on video games and stuff like that. So I mean, they're going to have much more serious problems much earlier in life than we are, because we didn't get started on this stuff till we were much older. I think
Mhm. Mhm.
they're playing those video games all the time.
All the
Can't,
time.
can't even get them away from them. You
It's
know.
good preparation for surgery
Oh, well,
because most
video game?
surgeries is done via robotics these days. So
Oh,
yeah,
very
that's the
interesting.
future. That's the future. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, next one. This is an interesting article about our history and the abuse that is passed on from parent to children. You know, it's an interesting phenomenon that children of abuse parents are abusive. And it was always shocking to me that to watch how children of abuse parents became abusive to their own children and to their spouses. And this intergenerational trauma, which they call it, is not good for anyone's health. And it sets the stage for mental illness. And something we have to guard against. As we talk about trauma and all of the negative aspects of it, with people killing people all the time, so it's one of the saddest stories of our lifetime, is the intergenerational trauma and how it affects all who are exposed to it, whether it's the inside the house or outside the house. And as we see, you know, you think of the kids who are exposed to it, not in the house, but because of what's going on out in the street. And they're still exposed, and they still wind up with post-traumatic stress syndrome, or what they call slave syndrome. How many of you were exposed to abuse in your growing up? Not many of you.
No. Mm-mm.
They,
No.
they would consider it abuse now, you know, but back then, I mean, it was standard. I mean, you messed up, you got the strap, you know.
Yeah.
Right, yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
that's right. Spare the rod and spoil the child, right?
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that wasn't considered abuse. That
I
was
have a,
considered child raising.
I have a cousin who was beaten by my uncle, my mother's brother, to the point where he even stopped crying. It was so bad. Yeah, with a strap. He's a preacher now though, so he turned out all right.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
amazing how many people survive that.
Mhm.
Dr. Callender, 2 points, like even teaching, they're telling teachers that they cannot touch the children or any corporal punishments or even mental punishments. And it's harder to deal with children without using punishment because we were raised with a punishment, but it can be done, that I'm learning. And then you look at your fraternities and sororities and the hazing. And if they were hazed, they will haze the prospective person. And that has to stop. They keep writing all this stuff that it stopped, but it still hasn't stopped because people are still dying because of pledging these fraternities and sororities, Black and white.
So Carol, that's underground pledging, and as a person, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, we are anti-hazing, and if we catch somebody like that, you are expelled from Alpha Kappa Alpha, and because it's penalties and laws for each state that if they are caught doing that. So you have to, I know in my sorority, that is forbidden, and there's laws and there's penalty and prison time. So you have to think about that. We're anti-hazing.
But in the beginning, they did it. And there's a couple of fraternities that are on right now. They got the laws and everything, but what you say is underground. And then if they say they are going to tell on the underground person, they will still won't be able to get in, or the thing is disbanded. But it has been built into our society as acceptable. Now we're getting to the point that it's not acceptable, just like parental abuse. If your parent beat you with anything other than their hand, and then that hand can be abusive. Most of us in here have been abused because we've been beaten with something other than, if you've been beaten with a belt or anything, that's called abuse in today's society.
And that's what the Bible speaks of. It's interesting. So that the Bible speaks of sparing the rod and spoiling the child as being the proper way to do it. So it's interesting how the laws have changed so that what's in the Bible is no longer.
Dr. Callender, can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you were saying that mental illness and things happen, children and growing up, when seeing abuse, being abused. So the question I'm going to ask, it was a 27-year-old woman that was killed last week in her car, shot in front of her 2-year-old and 4-year-old. Won't they remember that?
Yes.
That's what I kept thinking, because somebody else kept saying that. But I think that they're just too young. No, I don't think so. They saw that man shoot their mother.
Yeah, and the extent of mental trauma is difficult to predict, because
that was a sad story. Plus, yesterday they had on the news she was 4 months pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they did catch him, but it was like, oh my God, these children saw this whole thing.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's something you ever get rid of.
Right.
Well, you can get rid of it by psychotherapy, but who goes to psychotherapy? And the price our children pay for being exposed to this trauma, whether they are traumatized themselves physically or not, the mental trauma is there, and that is there for the rest of their life unless somebody actually gives them therapy. And we have such a fear of going to the psychiatrist and getting psychotherapy that sometimes that abuse is there forever.
And those children will not receive therapy. And like my daughter was talking about when she worked at Baloo, kids saw each other killed at the bus stop and blood splattered on them, and yet they were expected to go to school the next day after being traumatized, or they're going to be penalized, and no psychotherapy. They would come in one day and say, are you okay? You got anything to express? And then leave. And then you look at other schools in certain parts of Virginia and Maryland, someone has a child is killed in a motor vehicle, then they rush all of a sudden to that school to talk to the children. But if you think of our children in the inner city, they talk to the children 1 or 2 days and then they're gone. They think that's enough, but it takes years and months for someone to get over that. And those 2 children should keep them in prayer. But as far as seeking help, and our society help, and we'll report it, but there's no help given to those children, seeing that their parents are killed.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because in this group, people ask, well, since we know that the epidemic of mental illness is with us, what are we doing to prepare ourselves for it? And of course, the answer is probably nothing. And we'll pay the price for that. And that's something that we need to be more conscious of, as Carol is pointing out. This is an article that talks about COVID being endemic rather than pandemic. And what does that really mean? Is it a play on words or what? And Fauci has talked about it. Others have talked about it. And they still say it's a way off, but I think it's here. Because the reason is, why do I say it's here? I say it's here because so many people are now vaccinated. And the purpose of the vaccine was to prevent hospitalization and death. And so we're moving towards it being endemic because of most people are vaccinated. And when get to the situation where most people are vaccinated, then that will make it endemic. So we may be a month or 2 away from that, but we're moving in that direction. And that'll be evidenced by the falling death rates and falling hospitalization rates, which we still have now with Omicron. And this sentence says it all. This means it's here forever, just like the flu. It's here forever. Yeah. And like all of these diseases continue to kill people. It's just that they don't kill so many people. So those diseases are here, and we learn how to get our vaccination shots and do those things. So, and remember how many thousands still die every year from the flu. This is an article that talks about did somebody have a question or comment? Anyway, this talks about 2 paths of superimmunity to COVID-19. With one being having a breakthrough infection, and the other being having an infection and then getting the vaccine. And both will give you robust immune response, which is protective. But no one is suggesting that just getting the infection is enough. Everyone is suggesting even if you just get the infection, you still need to be vaccinated. And there, of course, those who don't agree with that, but most of the data now is making it clear that natural immunity without the booster is not as effective as getting the infection and getting the booster, or being fully immunized, getting the booster as well as the initial 2 shots. And I think we're well on the path towards endemic COVID. And I suspect we will get there sometime this year. That's my guess, but time will tell. what is problematic is the large people around the world who remain unvaccinated are inequitable.
Dr. Callender, I saw a report yesterday, about these people who are rioting and, for, individual rights. You can't make me get a vaccine. They say the government is trying to take over their bodies and everything. And, I understand the sentiment, but it's in light of the science that we know, it turns out to be ignorance, so.
And it's harmful. And it's
it-
harmful. It's not only ignorant, it's harmful because people will die because of it. And that's what, it's all right for you to kill yourself, but to kill others is what is problematic.
those unvaccinated who get the disease are breeding grounds for more variants also.
Right, right. Right. But they're with us, and you have these anti-vaccine people who are protesting. And this is just saying something that the other article said as well, that just like the flu, COVID is going to be with us. And there'll be variants all the time, just as they are with the flu. And so the goal will be to vaccinate appropriately for the variants as they come up.
See this statement right here?
Mm.
Part of the ecosystem.
Right,
They're going to be with us forever.
right. Just like the flu is with us, right? And all the other diseases are with us. All of them are still with us. We just don't talk about them anymore. TB is still with us. The other things are still with us. Just they don't kill as many people anymore, but they're still with us. And hospitalizations and deaths still occur. While the majority of people who are dying are unvaccinated, still there are people who are vaccinated who also are dying. It's just fewer of them, that's all.
Kind of upsetting right here.
Well, it's going to be interesting as we look back on January to see whether at the end of the month that the hospitalization rate and death rates falling, or are they tapering off? Our hope is that it's going to continue to fall. That's what's interesting. Still, you have people opposition to COVID mandates, which is in the governor, Republican governor, is trying to stop mandates. Yeah. It's amazing, so many sentiments. Yeah. But it's amazing that some people protest masks. And well, they protest everything. Protest masks, they protest everything. So this is the week you get the N95 masks from pharmacy chains and all over the country, Walgreens. It's funny, next week will be February. Time's flying.
It does, it flies.
Get three masks for
Yeah.
adult. How do they know you don't keep coming back to the store though? Or go to different stores?
We won't. They won't.
And how long should a mask last?
Depends on whether you use it once or whether you use it for hours, or whether you, and some of them can be reclaimed and recycled.
Mhm.
So it all depends.
So you breathe through the mask and you're trapping Omicron particles, but how long will those particles be active or whatever?
As long as you have the mask and the integrity of the mask is not compromised, as long as that's the case. And so if the mask gets wet or contaminated, then you need to change the mask, get another mask, and recycle it. So it doesn't allow it to get to you. So that's the purpose of it. How long will 3 masks last is what you're asking. And if you go to the store and you just use it for that purpose and come back, you could probably use it over and over again. If you go, let's say, to a basketball game and spend hours, you probably have to recycle it. That's just common sense, but they are recyclable, so you can use them again, clean them and use them again. The difference with the N95 is that it really fits snug, and it really allows you to have a system in which nothing gets into your nose or mouth that is not filtered. That's what the respirators, that they call them, are.
What's the difference between the N95 and the KN95 mask?
I don't know the difference because they both are effective. I don't know that answer. Good question. But both of them are available and they're both supposed to be effective, but I don't know the difference.
There's a graph later on that shows the efficacy of each type of mask. We'll see in a minute.
Well, it's amazing because you go to the basketball games and other things, and most people are still wearing cloth masks. So
They spent their money and bought all these cloth masks, so they're gonna use them.
yeah, and they're gonna use them. Yeah, whether they work or not, they're gonna use them.
I've seen people with the cloth mask underneath the N95 mask.
Okay, this is the graph I was talking about.
Well, it looks like N95 and KN95 are equivalent, probably.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like,
Just difference in branding.
that's what it sounds like, yeah.
Well, the N95 is like rounder in front, and the KN95 looks like it's pointier, a little bit pointier.
Mhm.
But they're equally effective.
Dr. Callender, I just received my email confirmation that the mask that I ordered from UPS through the Postal Service will arrive on Monday, January the 31st by no later than 9 p.m.
Okay,
So I guess the link does actually work. Now we'll wait to see if I get them.
yeah. But it's interesting that these, wow, these masks are 40% effective. Wow, this one,
Mm.
it looks,
Which one's that blue mask?
That's what I'm getting
They're
at.
all blue.
Oh, they're all blue. How can you tell the difference which is what?
oh, you can tell the difference by the snug fit of the N95s. They have something that fits right over the nose that allows you to have that vacuum between the nose and the chin, so that everything, whereas the others don't have that.
Dr. Count, I have I think this is K95. And this is the KN95. KN95.
Right. That's what I was talking about. The N95 is rounder. Turn it around on the other side. Yeah, see, it's rounder in front. Those,
Oh, okay.
those are much better with two different straps that
Yes,
go over the back of your head,
yes.
over the back.
And they have different colors, blue and white.
And they also have a different style now as well.
Yeah, that's right. There was an article about this lady who decided she wanted to get the COVID from her family. But what happened is she got it and she died. So they're telling people, please don't try to get it so you can get over it, because you may not.
Mhm.
Was she
Common
vaccinated?
sense.
What's that?
Was she vaccinated?
No,
Yeah, well, that's the stupid part. Sorry.
that's what they're talking about.
That's
People,
really.
they're talking about people who are unvaccinated.
Okay.
Mm.
That's
And
very
then
funny.
so, see, when her husband and her children got it, she decided she didn't want to be vaccinated, but she wanted to get it the natural way. She got
Yes,
it, but she died.
she wanted to build up immunity to it.
Right,
Mm.
but she died. So,
Well,
so
now she's
they're
immune.
trying
She
to.
will not get it again.
What's that?
Now she's immune. She will not get it again.
Darryl. Only Darryl would say that.
Carol?
So true, though.
Yeah, she won't try that experiment again.
Yeah, no, she can't. But
She definitely can't.
so it's important for people to get vaccinated, not to have their own research agenda.
This is upsetting right here. Even if you get a mild case, you can get long COVID.
Yeah.
Dr. Callender, this is Rochelle. Maybe we need a psychologist to come on to explain. We are more educated, we have access to more information, but why are people so against getting vaccinated when they know know that this can something that can help you opposed to harming you? I mean, I have a hard time trying to understand people.
What are you having a hard time understanding?
Why are they so against getting vaccinated? We've been getting vaccinated ever since I can remember.
Well, you know, there's always been an actually vaccinated group that have said that you get autism and you get this and that from vaccines. There's always been a group, even in back in 1918, they had the people who didn't want to wear masks. So there's always those people who are different. And
But where's the supporting documentation that the
there's
vaccine
none.
that child back? Because that's my question. When people say something to me, I say, but where is your supporting documentation to support your statement?
They probably get mad at you then.
Well, you know, they do. They stop talking to me, hang up, you know, because don't come to me talking about something and I ask them to support what you said. And then I ask them, please don't say that.
You know, I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. Most of those people are reacting to somebody telling them what to do. That's it.
Mhm.
They're reacting to being controlled by the government. You know, they want the right to commit suicide, which is it is a right.
They have that right. But the problem is not that they see the right to commit suicide is one thing, but the right for you to infect and harm others is another. And that's where most people differ. You have the right to kill yourself, but not the right to kill everybody else. And that's the problem we have with the actually vaccinated groups. Nowadays, we're having studies that showing more and more that the group of people who are vaccinated overcome Omicron, and the people who aren't may not. And we're getting more and more studies that are looking at the number of people who succumb to Omicron and those who do not.
Dr. Callender, you said it a couple of times. And when did that come into being that we have the right to kill ourselves? I mean,
Always had. Always had the right to commit
that's
suicide.
always been true.
As far as I know, yeah. You have the right to kill yourself, but not others.
So you have the right to commit suicide.
Yeah, you
Okay.
do. Now, we try to convince you otherwise. We try to convince you that you shouldn't kill yourself. But I don't know that there's a law against suicide. We try to do everything we can in our power to convince you that you shouldn't do it.
No, but you can't cash out on no insurance policy if you commit suicide.
That's correct.
You're not going to cash out on insurance anyway.
Or your family could.
Family can, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they won't get paid if you're suicide.
This is freedom.
Well, it's interesting now that Supreme Court has ruled against vaccinations and mandating vaccinations in the public arena, and have supported vaccination in the hospitals. It's going to be interesting to see what the businesses will do. question is, how many people have received the initial vaccination but have not received the booster? Because in many ways, they're not fully vaccinated without the booster. Now you have, I guess, everybody in Maryland's getting calls requesting you to get the booster shot if you're 5 months or over.
Are they saying yet how long that booster will last?
No, we don't know yet.
Okay. Yeah, because mine was in the end of October.
Yeah. So they haven't said yet. So the question is, will we need another booster? I think yes. The only question is when. And it's interesting how the discrediting information is widely published.
This is really, really sick that somebody would have that much power and
Good morning.
use it like that. It's horrible. Tucker Carlson, that jerk. If I saw him, I'd probably want to hit him with a baseball bat or something.
No, you have a right for suicide, not murder.
Not murder. Shucks. Stupid.
What's interesting is that Fox News, their staff of employees, including Tucker Carlson, has a 95% rate of vaccination.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that people will make those statements that have no basis in fact, but they make them anyway. They make those allegations anyway. But what is really tragic is many of those people are dying from COVID. Strong anti-vaccinators people.
It's sad. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Yeah, it is. To me, it is. Yeah.
If somebody follows that, they're going to be dead. That's
Yeah.
criminal. Isn't that criminal? You're an accessory to a murder.
Well, it's sad.
One of the great real estate companies of the world.
The accusations by Attorney General Letitia James mark a substantial escalation of her civil probe into the Republican former U.S. president's business. The Trump Organization.
Somebody's got a radio on or TV on. And a mute.
Let me see who that is.
The family has asked attention to block.
That would be.
Thus far in our investigation, we have uncovered significant evidence that suggests Donald J. Trump and the Trump Organization falsely and fraudulently valued.
You can ask them to put on mute. Yeah.
It's not Bonnie.
Of course not.
It sounds like it's Janet.
This is an article that talks about
It's not here. It's not
the ability of the vaccine to recognize the variants, which is very important.
And James cannot file criminal charges because her probe is civil. Trump, a Republican, has called the probe with
I'm going to mute everybody, and then Dr. Callender, unmute yourself and continue. Okay.
Sounds like Tucker Carlson.
Well, I think this speaks for itself. It tells the data of the opposite of what the people who misspeak. And it's clear that vaccination is protective. So why these people come up with the misinformation is not clear. But they, you know, it's interesting how you can say an untruth so often that people start believing it, even though it's untrue. And some people go loud and strong and wrong. And but I guess this is what we have to deal with.
Well, as long as people still keep believing in Santa Claus and making movies about it, people will always believe lies.
Well, this is a good article that talks about differentiating mortality rates between people who are vaccinated and those who are not. And it helps you look at the numbers and really come up with the truth. And it shows a graphic of what a difference is. And it's interesting how you can see that if you're talking about 5 of 50 versus 5 of 10. 5 of 10 of those who were unvaccinated die, and 5 of 50 of those who are vaccinated die. Still 5, but the difference is very, very gross. And this helps you put things into perspective when people come to you with data that is inaccurate. It's interesting how the percentage of people fully vaccinated varies. We're still only 63% fully vaccinated. Wow, look at China, 87.8%.
Chile.
Wow.
Chile.
That's probably the best one in the world, I guess. China, huh?
Chile.
Chile.
South America.
That vaccine came from Russia.
Look at that. The 71% in England, that's better than ours. I'm anxious to see what they have for Africa. And Haiti. Because that's really the crux of the matter. And the different countries in Africa. It's a huge continent in Africa. And so to talk about South Africa is one thing. Talk about the rest of Africa, especially Black Africa, is another. And that, to me, is the sin that we have an equitable allocation of the vaccine. And we got places in the continent of Africa, particularly the Black continent of Africa and Haiti, and places like that where we don't see data. And when you don't see data, it makes you wonder, what are we hiding? Why don't we have data? And the fact is that it's likely that you don't have data because the data is frightening and very negative. But any other comment about the persistent inequitable allocation of vaccine? By the way, next week we have a person who is going to be talking about liver disease. So any of you who have an interest in that should attract your friends to come in and listen to the liver expert next week.
Will do. I have quite a few that are interested. We'll try to get them out.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Or
I probably will not be on the group session next week because I'm moving.
You still gonna be in Chicago?
Yes. Yeah, just to move into a different house.
How's the weather in Chicago, by the way?
8 inches of snow.
Well, right now we've got a heat wave. It's 25 degrees. The last couple of days has been single digits, and there's 8 inches of snow on the ground, and we'll probably get another foot of snow next week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, it's nice not to be in Chicago.
All right, and I'm heading to Florida next week, but I'll be there for the liver disease.
Good. Okay. All
So,
right.
Dr. Callender, you know about the hawk?
The
The
hawk.
almighty hawk. He reigns. He rules in Chicago.
Oh, that hawk. Oh,
Blue
yeah.
Wall, yeah.
I visited Chicago in January once, and I vowed never ever to do that again. It was.
You get used to it.
No.
It's brutal.
No, I
Brutal.
never got used to it. 25 below zero. No, sorry.
Dr. Callender, I got up on the screen an ex-college professor who has a campaign going around, anti-vaccine campaign. And her name is Cahill, Dolores Cahill. And she said that masks, for children who wore masks, they would have a lower IQ and all a bunch of stuff. They kicked her out of the university because of her anti-vaccine efforts. But anyway, she's getting very popular, going around doing talks and everything of why you should not get vaccinated.
Yeah, popular topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Professor Dolores Cahill.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. You guys have a good week.
You too.
You too.
Thank
You
you
too.
too.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Here.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Mhm.
All right. Bye, Charles.
All right, bye now.
Charles Blaylock.
Bye,
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.